How you doing, YouTube? Matt with Massive Beer Reviews. Back with yet another review. A beer I've wanted to review for quite some time. A beer that I've had before, kinda, sorta. We'll get to that in a minute. In the form of Bellwood Brewing's 2017 Cognac Bring Out Your Dead. Yeah, Bring Out Your Dead. I heard a lot about it when I first got into doing the beer thing, and I still do kind of meander around the whole Canadian beer scene. Those guys are close enough to me. I got introduced to them first when I started doing the beer review thing, and ended up going up there hanging out a couple times. I ended up having Bring Out Your Dead, and I was told it was a really good beer, and guess what? It was really fucking good. Reviewed it on somebody else's channel, so I never reviewed it on my own. But I've always wanted to kind of grab one. This is back when Bellwoods now, they're doing collabs with fucking Trillium and going ape shit. But this is back when nobody knew who the fuck they were, and yeah, it's kind of eluded me because it's hard to get that stuff. It's a coveted beer, and to get beer from Canada down here that's not distributed, it can be a pain in the ass sometimes. But I was lucky enough to have York from Strange Bruisings on the YouTubes. Go check him out. I sent him a mail. He sent me a mail back. Go and watch the unboxing, and you'll see all the barrel-aged craziness that he sent me. And that was last night, and I'm just not even fucking around. I'm diving right into it. So, yeah, first up, Bring Out Your Dead. So, like I said, I had this before. I don't know if they do variants on it. I didn't look up shit. That's my fucking MO when it comes to this stuff. So I know I've had it, but I don't know if Bring Out Your Dead is a cognac barrel-aged stout. I don't know if they do like a bourbon barrel, cognac barrel, whatever. I didn't want to look up anything about the beer before I dive back into it. So if I am wrong or right or somewhere in between, then hey, I'm wrong or right or somewhere in between. But other than that, it says, what else does it say in a bottle? What does it say in a bottle? Which this bottle's kind of fucked up, actually. Anyway, it says, Bring Out Your Dead, Imperial Stout, aged in cognac barrels, 11% alcohol, aged 12 months. That'd be that. Done and done. Label-wise, Bellwoods labels has always been fucking killer. So, yeah. Don't have to worry about that. Their art is on point. It's a glass. That is a bottle. And this is probably a horrible pour. So, what are we looking for here? Imperial Stout, Cognac. So, we're looking for kind of like, sweetness. Big roasty maltiness, maybe a little chocolate vibes, maybe a little bit of coffee vibes. Hopeful goodness is what we're looking for. But what we got so far is chocolate. What I like my coffee to look like, mocha style colored head, super tight compact bubbles, infinite creaminess, and she be dark. Oh, she be dark. So, yeah, we're off to a good start. She looks like a stout. She looks like she was aged in a cognac barrel. No, you can't tell that from by looking at it. You can tell by smelling. Huh? So let's give it a nose. It's got a soft spirit vibe to it. It's definitely kind of cognac leaning, kind of almost like European whiskey vibe. But you get these soft kind of char. It's a combination, I think, of the bittering malts combined with a nice kind of barrel chariness. Stink bug. Better be a stink bug. Yeah, soft, chewy, kind of marshmallowy kind of chariness now. Big whiff on that one. Got that nice vanilla tones, baby. Vanilla notes that kind of come off big marshmallow off to me. And that chariness is kind of like that burnt, charry, kind of rubbed with chocolate thing I've talked about in the past. It's been a while since I brought that up. And the cognac's kind of floating around the edges of it, but it's kind of like a flambéed cognac to where you're not getting a ton of booziness. It's just kind of like more of like a syrupy kind of liqueur kind of vibe now, as opposed to a big kind of spirit. Yeah, it doesn't smell all that gigantic beer-wise. It smells calculated. It smells refined. It smells like a mobster. And by that I mean mobsters. What's the story? It's not necessarily a story. It's just that, like, when people are out there and they say they're, if someone's yelling in this corner of a room telling they are a badass or a mobster or from Mensa or whatever, anything where someone touts their abilities, chances are they're not one of those peoples. Most of the people who are kind of, whatever you want to call them, hitmen or fucking mobsters or, secret agents or whatever you want to call it, they don't say anything. They're refined. They're calculated. They know what they're gonna do. You're getting a nice big malted stout with a nice spirit to it and a nice barrel to it, but it's nothing ostentatious, nothing garish. It's very fine, very calculated. That's kind of fucking sexy. Let's dive in. See, but then when the hitman actually has to do his job and fuck your shit up, he does his job and fucks your shit up. And that's kind of what you have going on here. It's tasty. The mouthfeel is where I like it to be. It's not the super dense syrupy thing. It has a little bit of kind of fluff to it. Kind of puts it almost in that kind of overtly charred, kind of roasted malt, kind of imperial porter kind of realm that I dig so much. There's a lot of barrel in a lot of roasted malt. It's probably actually a decent amount of roasted malt and a decent amount of barrel, but they kind of marry each other and become almost one. There's bitterness. More bitter than sweet, dare I say. Or perceptionally. It's probably way sweeter than it is bitter, but that bitter's bigger than what I'm used to, so it's coming off more kind of in my face, I guess you would say. It's fun. You're hit with that big pop of bitterness and kind of sits there for a minute. Dances on your tongue. When you go to swallow, just bang. You get this big pop of bitterness. There's sweetness all throughout. It stays at a pretty level state. So that bitterness kind of builds and then starts to fall off. And that sweetness kind of lingers there. So it's like that is a monotone line. Whereas that bitter is kind of like a waveform. So you're getting kind of these waves of sweet. And then bitter, you're not necessarily getting, the bitter. You're not getting the sweet. The sweet is staying at the same portion. But the bitter is kind of riding throughout. And the bitter, like I said, I feel like it's a good portion from roasted malt. There's probably some coming from some hops in there, but I also think it's a bittering from the wood. I actually think there's like a smoky kind of, almost savory kind of bitterness to it. They all kind of meld together and become this three-headed monster of bitterness. I shouldn't say monster because it's kind of fun. Actually, it's not kind of fun. It definitely is fun. And but the sweetness it's like definitely like a straight up non-sweetened chocolate with that kind of sweetness that you would get from a malt combined with that kind of cognac. The cognac doesn't come off super boozy. The beer itself comes off a little bit big, but the cognac doesn't come off super boozy. Cognac just lends its kind of flavor profile to it as opposed to a super amount of booziness. The whole thing, you have that bitter and that sweetness kind of just waving back and forth again. The sweetness kind of stays still, but the bitterness for me kind of goes up and down. And there's this kind of dryness throughout it. You're getting dryness from the astringency from the bitter malt. You're getting dryness from the probably a little bit of yeasty vibes going on. Definitely getting dryness from the wood. So it's playing on all your senses, but it's definitely more of a mature kind of beer as opposed to kind of a pastry stout. It's a core 4 beer from the taste and with the spirit. So it's not like throwing marshmallow, this and that and the other thing. Sure, you get vanilla tones, marshmallow tones from the barrel itself, but again, it's a core 4 beer with the barreling going on. But it's also that score bar version of a beer. I've talked about this in the past. A score bar for me is an adult candy bar. I didn't like it as a kid. Now I like it. My mom used to get it for a couple reasons. One, because she was an adult, and two, she knew I didn't like it, so I wouldn't eat it on her. So score bars tend to just be a little bit kind of a mature kind of sweetness for people. A little bit more kind of savory, sweet, and bitter, and it just kind of like a beer, and it just kind of works for a more kind of mature palate. Sounds kind of uppity. Do I mean it to be that way? Not really. But that's kind of where this beer lands. It comes off way more interesting to me than some kind of sweetened super chocolate coffee bomb that you see coming out of every single brewery that people line up for days for in advance and buy tickets to festivals that are basically named after them. So yeah, my thoughts. It's tasty and I like it. I'd like to see one of these aged. I've heard a couple things about them aging, some good, some bad. But it's a good beer, a mature beer, well, it's super sweet, but not as sweet as what a lot of people are accustomed to nowadays kind of beer. Good stuff. Let's talk about it. This is one of the better barrel-aged stouts I've had as of late. Yes. Like I said, it kind of separates itself, and then it lends itself to. It's definitely an old school barrel-aged beer, but with that new school kind of pizzazz. Even though it is a core 4 beer and just a barrel, to me this is beer. This is fucking beer. Again, there's a barrel involved. I know it's outside of the Ryan Heinz Kabuti stuff that I don't give a shit about, but it's not confusing everybody with a bunch of other shit. It's a really good beer with a little bit extra going on. Value and availability, brewery only, I think. Actually, don't know how much it costs. Maybe you were to chime in, or somebody out there in the old Canada, and leave you with if you like what we like this. If you like beer, if you know what good beer is, if you like barrel-aged stouts, not pastry stouts, even though it's kind of like non-mutually exclusive. You like pastry stouts and like this beer, but if all you like is pastry stouts, you probably won't like this beer. Let's see. If you like adult candy bars. And if you like Canada. Who doesn't like Canada? Except for Trump and maybe a couple other people. There you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't, anywhere in between down our words and stuff. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Untapped, Massive Beers, all 4 of those places if you want to check this dude out somewhere else. If you want to check me out just with the ear holes, though, Beer Massive. So beer and then MASSIF. Podcast. Used to do a podcast, brought it back. Ton of brewer interviews, like over 100 brewer interviews, and doing a little thing with a bunch of friends. We're going to start putting out a bunch of awesome content. Got a bunch of brewery interviews already lined up, like 15. So that's a couple months worth of content. We're going to try to drop 2 brewer interviews a month, and then some kind of proprietary content and stuff like that, opinion pieces and stuff. So go check it out. iTunes, Stitcher, all the places, podcast-wise, you find your stuff. Beer Massive. Subscribe, rate, follow, all that fun stuff. 5 stars, son. And there you go. Another review in the book. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a Bring Out Your Dead right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.